Welcome to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock, who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome, everybody. And today I am delighted to have somebody I consider to be my friend. She's also a client, and it's Jasmine Briggs-Rogers. And Jasmine is a career coach and resume writer through her company, Creatively Inspired Career Coaching. Now, one of the things that kind of differentiates Jasmine is that she brings strategy and purpose to career management and learning and development. Welcome, Jasmine. It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we've known each other for a little while. I've seen you shoot a lot of videos you have some wonderful tips, and we'll get into, where people can find you and where they can get all that great free content that you've put out in all the various social media channels in a moment. But I like to start off with everybody that I interview for the show. And, asking, what's your story? How did you get to be a career coach and counselor and resume writer?
Yeah, good thing. Well, at my heart, I am a career transitioner. I actually went to school for theater, and I thought I was going to be a famous actress. So I went to college for theater, and I moved back to New York. And I started temping a lot. And from temping and signing up with all these temp agencies, I had this moment where I thought I could do this. I could be a recruiter. And I did. I transitioned and I worked in legal recruiting. From there, I felt like I really wanted to help people. So I went back to school and I got my master's in transpersonal psychology as well as a life coaching certification. I had no idea what I wanted to do with that. And so I did a lot of research and volunteered. And eventually I transitioned into workforce development, where I was helping people with disabilities or substance abuse issues find employment. I also, because I was working in nonprofits and not making a lot of money, I also started ghostwriting for some resume writing companies. From there, I transitioned again into higher education as a career counselor. And that's when I decided I wanted to focus my life coaching practice on career coaching and use those resume writing skills. So that's when I started my career coaching and resume writing business. And that was probably 10 years ago at this point. At the same time, I stayed with Berkeley College as a career counselor, and I'm currently the senior director of career services for their New York City and online campus.
Outstanding. And it kind of begs the question, though, because not everybody, I think, knows this. What is career planning, right? So there's job searching and stuff like, but what is career planning? And that's something that you really focus on.
Yeah. So career planning is the ongoing process of really evaluating your career. And I say that this is something that you should do even when you're not looking for a job. So it's, first step is really doing that self-discovery work. What are your interests? What are you passionate about? What really calls to you? And then from there, it's setting goals within your career and taking the time to come back quarterly and look at those goals, see where you're at, strategize around how to achieve those goals and move forward in your career. I say, we are the CEOs of our own career. No one's going to give us a promotion. No one's going to just hand us a new job. It's up to us to really strategize and put ourselves out there for our career goals.
Well, and I really think that, the word proactive really comes into play, because I think a lot of people who have I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't really have the employee mindset, but I think part of the employee mindset is a bit of a trap, because it starts to be dependent on, people can find themselves dependent on exactly what you kind of alluded to, which is they're kind of waiting for their employer to give them the next step, or whether that be, an increase in the hierarchy, or moving forward within their job, or whether it be getting a raise or whatever it is. And I really like the concept of, look, we all realize now that it's no more that people get a job for 30 years and retire and have the same job for that whole time. That's an era that's past now, right? So you're probably going to be switching jobs a number of times, and to be able to proactively direct where you want to go and how and what you want to get there, and to have an eye on, not that you're looking to run out the door, for the next opportunity that might come along, but if you're not asking and you're not engaged with the HR department, if you're not letting the people know that are in the organization that you work for what your goals are, what your intentions are, and looking at that from a proactive standpoint, I think you could really be limiting yourself. But once somebody has kind of a career plan, and I know that you've got, again, videos and blog posts and stuff like that give people tips on how to get started with that. But what does somebody need to know or to do to start an actual effective job search if somebody is wanting to search for a job?
Yeah, that's great. Most people have 5 different careers in their lifetime. So the job search is part of how we change, we grow. I can't imagine wanting to do the same thing, for the next 30, 40 years, even myself, even though I love this. But to start an effective job search, I think that first step of the career planning is important, really taking a look at what are our strengths, what do we enjoy doing, what are our weaknesses too. We don't want to focus on our weaknesses, but we want to know, right, where we may need support. And then where we're setting those goals about where we're looking to take our career. Because in the job search, we really want to focus around, how do we brand ourselves around in that industry? How do we network in that industry to make sure that we have the right connections? And is our LinkedIn profile, our resume, our cover letter, all of our social media really targeted to speak to the people in that industry that we're looking to go to?
Outstanding. So, I guess we should really kind of focus then on, what does personal branding, social media, et cetera, play into the job search? Because, I'm old, right? So it seems new to me, but there's nothing new about social media. But it's especially in career and job search kind of arena. Social media plays a huge role, and 10, 15, 20 years ago, it almost didn't exist, or it was very, very rare. And now it's a huge component, if not almost the biggest component, right?
Yeah, everything is online now, and recruiters are online. And so your personal brand, your social media, not just your LinkedIn, but all of it is being looked at, right? There are now specifically companies that their job is to go on people's social media and put together a list of candidates for recruiters. So just because someone may not be reaching out to you through your social media doesn't necessarily mean that's not how they found you.
Absolutely.
So thinking about who you are online and thinking about what your personal brand is, online and offline, is important too when you start doing in the interview and going into promoted. But thinking about how you display your personal brand online is really big. Google now is almost like the free background check. Once you apply somewhere, people are going to Google you. They're going to look you up and see what you're about. And so if you have social media that speaks to your audience, right, it's a great way to be discovered. And you also want to make sure that your social media doesn't block you or post red flags for your audience.
And not to get into too much granular detail, but how do you prevent that from happening? What causes you to get blocked?
Well, I think inappropriate content, right? I'm not gonna say I don't drink, I don't party, but when I'm looking for a job, I'm thinking about what are the pictures of me that are out there, right? Is there
Right.
one where I'm passed out?
Right.
The cursing, complaining about past employers, and that's a big one. Complaining about past employers,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
about even your past schools. Employers don't want to see that. And so if you're on LinkedIn complaining about a company, that I would say is also a big red flag. Just like you shouldn't complain in an interview, you want to be mindful of the same thing on your social media.
Well, I think I don't think a lot of people really recognize that, because I think that, most people would recognize, at least if they've had a job or two, that it's probably not best to have all the party pics, out there. But at the same token, our tendency, of course, is if we've had a bad experience, is we want to share it. But you got to realize, right, that the recruiters and the HR people that might consider you for a position you have to assume they're going to look at all of your social media. And if they put you in the category as a complainer, right, then it's not going to fare well for you. So it's probably best to not have out on social media, your gripes and complaints, I guess, about past positions. So, and I know that you've talked about some of this stuff and a lot of other stuff through, you've got quite a social media presence. So, just to kind of list it out a little bit. So JasmineBriggs.com,
Yes.
which is a great website. Actually, it was the first time I saw it was this morning when I was preparing for our conversation. And one of the things that pops up there is this free download for a 2-minute job interview meditation. And I kind of want to talk about mindset and meditation, towards the end of this. But, please take advantage of that. No reason not to. You're, of course, on LinkedIn under Jasmine Briggs. You're on Facebook as Jasmine Briggs Life Coach. You're on Instagram as CI Coaching. And finally, you're on YouTube. You have your own YouTube channel for Jasmine Briggs 11. And folks, there'll be links to all of these things associated with this podcast, whether it be in video or any of the podcast platforms. But one of the things that I kind of want to ask you, I already know the answer, but I kind of want to ask you, how did you get into doing videos and creating your own YouTube channel? And you've been a part of, for I think a couple of years now, Video Socials, which is the sponsor of this show. So Video Socials, it has the concept of, look, why speak to an inanimate object called a camera? Why have it sitting on the side? Marketing is, for busy professionals, marketing is like the last thing on the priority list. And so if we don't have accountability, if we don't have it on the schedule, if we don't have some instruction and some help and some support of others that are doing the kind of the same thing, it's just not going to get done, or it's not going to get done consistently. And marketing is all about being authentic and being consistent. And so we get together, usually 5 to 10 people, in a meeting on a Zoom conference, and we take turns recording our videos and recording for marketing purposes, for our websites, for our blogs, for YouTube, etc. And we refine ourselves through feedback from each other. So we're there to support and encourage, but at the same token, we also offer suggestions or tips of how we might improve next time, or rephrase something, or let people know where things are really, that's really important, that really soaks in, and gee, that leads to another suggestion for another video that you might do, etc. And so you've got a YouTube channel with lots of these 2-3 minute videos that you've created there. But why did you join Video Socials, and how has that been working for you? What are you getting out of it?
Yeah, so Video Socials for me has really upped my video game. If you scroll way, way back on my YouTube, you'll see the lighting is bad. The videos are too long. But for me, it has really supported me with, like you said, staying consistent, really making sure that I'm putting out good quality videos, and getting great ideas, and networking. I feel like some of the people that I have met from video socials, it's just been a really invaluable experience to have their knowledge as well. I feel like there are lots of professionals that I can go to now for questions. And it takes the hard tech part away, like, I love that I can just go in, they process the video for me, and then I can just go live on Facebook and post it on LinkedIn. So it just makes it a lot easier, and it helps me stay consistent, which has kind of been one of my biggest blocks is consistency, I would say.
And you're certainly not alone in that. And so anyway, folks, if you have an interest in doing videos for your social media, for your websites, etc., check us out. It's videosocials.net. Social being the operative word there, because we do it together rather than trying to do it all on our own. And just go to videosocials.net and click on the guest tab at the top of the screen. There's no cost or obligation to come as a guest. We'd love to have you. And Jasmine, that kind of brings me back to really one of the things that I wanted to discuss. Your free giveaway is the 2-minute job interview meditation. But I think a lot of times we get into the tactile, fill this out, how to fill out an application, how to write a resume, et cetera, et cetera. But what's underneath all of that is our mindset. Mm-hmm. And, how we feel about, a job search. I know that I'm certainly guilty of at least 5 times that I've changed careers in my life. As a matter of fact, I've owned 5 companies, plus I've had a number of jobs. But there's been times that I was searching for a job. I needed to find a job, and it can be incredibly disheartening and lonely and stressful. And so I know that a lot of your content gives people tips on how they can, keep themselves up, do the self-care that's necessary, et cetera. But what would be your top tips for somebody to stay positive and to get put themselves in the mindset that is going to have them interviewing well, is going to have them taking the steps, sending out the resumes, writing the cover letters, et cetera, with the consistency that's required to get a job now, because you can't just, I want that one. Let me go apply there and I'll sit and wait. Right.
Yeah. And so for me as an actor, I got used to rejection. And I think in the job search, there's a lot of rejection, right? So one of the things an old acting coach told me is before every audition, imagine how you want the audition to go in your mind. And so that's what I generally tell people before the job interview. Imagine how you want it to go in your mind. And that's what the meditation is about. Because at the end of the day, people hire people that they like. So it's all about connecting with that other person. So going in to an interview, that's always my mentality, is how do I connect with you? And if I can't connect with you, maybe it's not the job for me. So every interview, they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. Every job isn't for you. Every job, we get into a point, sometimes it feels like desperation, right? Depending on what's happening in our life circumstances. And sometimes we're like, I'll take anything. But at the end of the day, we really want to find something that's going to support us, and that where we feel like we can grow and be comfortable with doing the job. So mentally going into the job search, right? It's about getting comfortable with rejection and knowing that rejection is not a personal reflection on you. Mm-hmm. Having a positive mindset when you're doing something, maybe it's a meditation before you do any job search activity, you take a few moments and you take some breaths and you get centered. And then having a plan, I would say. So at 5:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that is your job search time. And that's really to help you stay consistent, because that rejection can become a lot. If you feel like things aren't moving, it can be easy to get discouraged and quit. But in order to be successful, we have to keep going with our job search and with our networking.
Absolutely. And so I love those tips. I love that concept. And one of the things, just looking back at my experiences, this is probably 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I had a hard time staying motivated because at one point it was like I had closed down a business. I've had successful businesses and I've had unsuccessful businesses. So as everybody has, we had successful jobs and unsuccessful jobs. But I was in a position where it was really critical that I found myself in that very awkward position of I need employment. I need the income, et cetera. It was very difficult to stay motivated, because you end up sending out hundreds of resumes and applying for hundreds of positions, and it was taking weeks on end, and to stay motivated and to stay and to keep my mindset up I found very, very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And then along with, when interviews did come along, it wasn't a good fit, either for me or the company didn't feel that I was a good fit for them. And so it was very difficult not to get discouraged. But what would you suggest other than the obvious, which is to hire you so that they got you in their corner, but do you provide any resources, or do you have suggestions for resources that people can use? You've already touched on meditation, and I think that's excellent.
I think community. So is there someone, a positive person that you can be in community with? Maybe also a positive person that is also looking to take their career in a new level. I would say being open to all opportunities, right? So we get so stuck, I need to find a job as a IT developer. But I never turn down an interview, I say, right? I take all interviews. So being open to, different paths, right? That might come to you, because sometimes you meet someone out of nowhere and they bring new information. So really being open, and knowing, staying in that positive mind frame and getting within community, or some kind of accountability or support, because job search can feel lonely, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a lonely process.
So it's finding a cheerleader, right? And at the same time, also, I love the concept of kind of partnering up with others that are doing a job search, because then you could be each other's cheerleader, right? So, I think the operative word that you pulled into that was community. If it doesn't exist, create it. Don't try to go it alone, especially if you're starting to feel that discouragement and that frustration, because you don't want to carry the discouragement and the frustration into the interviews, right? And I think the other thing that you said that I have personal experience with this, as well as I have grown children, right? So and one graduated college a couple of years ago, and she's found a great position now, but it was not what she was looking for, right? And in many cases, I've taken positions that weren't what I was looking for. So just because you create this plan, or you have an idea, and I think it's kind of like a bullseye target, right? Go for exactly what you want, but be willing, if you hit the board somewhere and it's a good fit, be open to the concept. I love your phrase, never turn down an interview, right? Because the interview, you never know where it's going to go, because that interview might be a really great conversation with somebody that's well connected, that maybe it's not a good fit for you, that particular role, but guess what? HR people or people that are involved in hiring know each other and work with, and so they may very well, if you guys click, then they say, you know what, I don't think this role is right for you, but I know, this other company, this other HR person that may have something that's a better fit for you. And it's kind of like networking at the HR level, right? So yeah, I really I really appreciate the fact that you bring up to be open to other paths, to, things that might seem a little bit one-off or something that you hadn't really considered. Um,
so many jobs out there that we've never even heard of.
Yeah.
And that are being created as we speak.
Absolutely. And not to mention, it's one of the things that I tried to tell my daughter as she was going through the process. It's like, I'm from a generation in which like everything is permanent, right? Our mindset was that it was permanent. You're going to have a permanent position. This is a permanent job. It's a permanent, right? So that permanence is not what it used to be. And so not that you want to go into a position of, I'm only going to be there 6 months or a year or something like that. But realize that markets are shifting, positions are shifting, companies are having to evolve, and that means that the roles that people are playing, or people that are engaged in companies is going to shift. If the company's not changing, it's not going to survive. So it's not a 20-year or 30-year or 40-year decision that you're making when you're taking something that's a little different than what you thought. It might be for a couple of years. It might turn into something longer. And the other thing that I said to my daughter is getting your foot in the door. Sometimes maybe it's a little bit to the left of where you thought you were going to be, but is there opportunity for advancement? Is there opportunity to move into a different area? And the experience that you can gain lots of times, as you said, there's positions and there's roles and there's tasks and responsibilities that you never maybe even thought of, but just in taking that on for a while, you learn, right? And that just helps you grow, and that makes you more well-rounded. And so terrific. Well, is there anything before we close up that you had any special tip or idea for people that you'd like to?
Well,
what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. So the best way to reach me is at jasminebriggs.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me. If you are looking for a job, if you are just building your career, have a LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is so important. It's just such a great way to network, apply for jobs, and learn about different positions, connect with people as well. So if there was a tip, it would be to be on LinkedIn.
And to take it seriously, right?
Yes.
Not just throw something up there to have something up there, but to actually look at profiles and look at and have completeness, right?
Yes.
And engage in the profile. Go pay attention to the companies that you might want to work for, et cetera. So, really wonderful. And you did have somebody that, Shireen Campbell, that you said that might be a good fit for the Inspiring Business podcast. What can you tell me about Shireen?
Shireen Campbell owns the website My Little Magic Shop. Mm-hmm. It's a great site. She does astrology. She has a membership site. So if you're really looking to, take that moment to get centered before your job interview, check out her site, purchase some of her kits. I think there's even a career kit as well. So it's just a really fun, great site.
Terrific. Well, I look forward to meeting her, and I just wanted to acknowledge you, Jasmine, because you're coming at, again, you've got some of your training and background is in psychology, et cetera. So I mean, you're really looking at this more as a holistic, approach, and not just let me go find a job. It's let me create my career.
Yes.
Is kind of how I perceive you, and I think that makes a huge difference for people who can engage with it. And I really wanted to acknowledge you for making all of the free content that you have out there between your website, your various social media channels, because there's really a lot of really wonderful tips, guys, and I hope you'll take advantage of it. Again, there'll be links for everything associated with the podcast. Jasmine, it's been wonderful having you, and I love your energy. I love your enthusiasm. I love your smile, and I love what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I loved being on the podcast. I'm so glad.
Well, it was wonderful to have you. All right, folks, stay tuned.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.